Ed, you were recruited by Fairchild in June of 1959, shortly before Bernie, and we're going to get to that tale, which to me is the highlight of this whole show. As the first of a half dozen production management trainees, what did you do your first few years at Fairchild from 59 on?
Yeah, I was hired in '59 by Frank Grady, who was the general manager at the time. The Treacherous Eight had hired him to be their general manager, and I think they were interested in me because I had a materials background, or they wanted me for materials because I had MS in physical metallurgy. But I had worked, well, all of the production management trainees were based after, I guess, concepts developed by GE and companies down south where Grady had come from. They were all college graduates, all service veterans.
They had a technical problem. Can anyone help us?
I'm sorry?
Portable mic is not live.
Here, let me go, okay.
Maybe use another mic.
Can you hear me now? Is that better? Yeah, okay. Anyway, we were all college graduates, all service veterans. There were a number of us that joined us. I was candidated for materials, but because I'd worked for a couple of years between service and going there, I started asking a lot of embarrassing questions about their production processes and production control, so I immediately got made a foreman of their NPN transistor line, which was the only line running at the time. This was all in the Charleston plant on Charleston Avenue. It was very, very small and full. And I remember I had a partial desk and it was right next to the Taylor Winfield final seal machine. Sometime in the next year to year and a half, I ended up getting promoted to being general foreman. We were running 3 shifts, so I had 3 or 4 foremen working for me and 4 or 5 engineers. During the 60 to 61, Charlie Spork, who joined at the end of '59, brought the concept of product line management, reorganized the company into 3 product lines: NPN, PNP, small geometry, and a separate photolithography section. And I ended up being the product line manager for the NPN transistor line, which at that time had about 3 to 4 foremen, 4 engineers, and I had about 100 employees. And we worked around the clock. I think it was only a 5-day work week. I don't think it was a 7-day work week. Sometime in '61, I was assigned the responsibility to work on a project to develop another manufacturing location. And we ended up looking at a variety of cities. We had several criteria. Those criteria were that we wanted it to be on the East Coast because we had a lot of companies, IBM and DEC being a couple of examples, that were on the East Coast. We wanted a smaller mid-sized city so that a company with 1,000 employees, a product plant with 1,000 employees would be interesting and would have some impact in the city. We wanted a workforce availability. We were hiring lots of ladies, and we would prefer a non-union environment. We wanted the ability to run by 7 by 24, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. And not all states made that easy, by the way. And we wanted a location that was attractive to recruit engineers and professional staff. You know, we could see that we were going to need an increasing amount of engineering and talent. And that kind of led us to say that one of the other criteria was we'd like to have a university or college or technical schools adjacent to the area. And we were looking for land and a building. And, lastly, we were interested if there were any incentives. We ended up selecting Portland, Maine. And I served as the first Portland, Maine plant manager through 1964. We built a plant in what had been a speculative startup building. We started first in a Ford auto dealership. If you can think about what your dealership typically looks like, we had all the offices in the showroom, and we had the assembly line in basically the service bay. And we were in there while we were outfitting the spec building, so we were in there on Main Street for probably 8 months at least. Then we moved into the plant building and we built a dedicated factory. And by the time I had left in '64, we'd grown to over 1,000 employees, servicing, working 3 shifts. And the building later, and that whole plot later, became the headquarters of Fairchild in the 1990s, after Fairchild was spun off from NSC, from National Semiconductor.